Coming up on this episode with Kathleen McGivern. In this episode, I'm going to show you 5 must-have art supplies when you are new to oil painting or for oil painting for beginners. Let's get art inspired. I dream of painting and then I paint my dream. Vincent van Gogh. So the very first thing I would suggest getting is a paper palette. So this is mine. It's wet, so I'm holding it carefully. So I've been using the same sheet in a paper palette, which is kind of like a waxy paper. Comes like this. Okay, with a nice neutral background so you can see your colors easily. And then when I'm done with this, I'm going to dispose of it. Now, I'm not using one sheet for one day of painting. I'm using one sheet for one artwork. And then when I'm done with this, I will remove this color palette and I will dispose of it. Which this package comes with 50, so that's like 50 paintings worth if you think about it that way. Now it's oil paint, so a lot of it's going to stay wet for a few days, so I don't need to worry about that. So it'll stay nice and wet, and then I will keep using it until it is dry, and then I'll add to my palette. Now, you can also get a glass palette. I have been struggling to find one, so I'm going to use my paper palette until I can find a good glass palette, and then I will just add paper, like a neutral paper behind it, or tape it to the back, so that way I get that nice, I can see clearly my colors. But just for beginning, because you're going through a lot of different processes, you're learning the medium, get a paper palette pack, and again, use one sheet for painting, per painting, and then dispose of it. So you can think about it as that's a lot of paintings you're going to make before you're done. To go with it, to pair with that, you'll need your palette knife to mix your colors. You can also use it to make marks on a canvas, right? Like you can sculpt or paint with a palette knife. So I'm going to consider these two as a pair for your first tool. Tool number 2, or supply number 2, you need primary colors and white and black. Now, I went and bought, because I have a problem of just like, oh, I need it all. I went and bought all different kinds of colors, like bright oranges and bright purples and all kinds of things. And let me tell you, I have not used any of them. Why? Well, because I put on my primary colors. Sometimes I'll use different greens, like pre-made greens. I put my primary colors on here, and then I simply just mix my own colors. So I don't need all the colors. And then because I have primary colors on here, I'll just take away from like a little bit of yellow, a little bit of red, mix it up. Oh my god, I already have the color out. I'm not gonna go get a tube and add more to my palette. And you need white and black. So primary colors, red, yellow, blue, and white and black to create some tints and shades in there. And then you can also lighten or darken using yellow, for instance, right? You can make a yellow green, which is a tertiary color, or a yellow orange. So you can also, instead of using white only to create a lighter color or a lighter hue, you can use yellow or different versions, right? You can mix your colors, add more blue to make it dark, or add more red to make it a more red variant, such as red orange or red purple, right? Because there's purple, red purple, and there's also blue purple, which is a more bluey purple. So there's different ways to mix your colors just by adding a little bit more or less of one of these primaries. Alright, so that's all you really need to start. And also it's a great way to understand color and color theory, so that way you know how to mix colors and you don't need to spend all that money buying all the things, because oil paints can be expensive. Next, mineral spirits. Turpentine is, it's kind of toxic, so it's kind of going on its way. So I got mineral spirits, and you'll need a container to house some of the mineral spirits that you're using. Mineral spirits can be used to be thinning your paint and creating a wash in the initial stages. but I use it mostly to create rinse my brushes. So to clean your oil paints, you're going to, or your oil brushes, these guys, you're going to need something to clean it with, right? It's not going to come off in water. Now mine are nice and super clean. It doesn't feel like it has ever had oil paint on it. Obviously you're not going to get all the blue or green out of your white brushes. You'll never go back to being just white. But you're going to need to clean off that oil paint. If you don't, go buy a brush. Same with acrylic, go buy a brush. But acrylic paint, you can just use water. Oil paint, you have to use something else to get the oil, break it off. So this is my mineral spirits. I put it in a container. I got this at Hobby Lobby. I don't live in a place that has Hobby Lobby, so I went across into America and got it at a Hobby Lobby. So I had a jar initially, and then I had like a plastic piece at the bottom that has like holes in it. But then I found this container where this, like, you can see it has, I'll turn this way, it has holes in the bottom and it fits perfectly in, so it's not sliding around. Anyways, so what happens is I take my brush when I'm done painting. It's not gonna dry away like right away like acrylic. Typically I store my brushes in water when I'm painting with acrylic. With oil, it's fine. Mix in my mineral spirits. I scrub it on the bottom on those holes to make sure I get out all my oil paint. And I'm done. I put my lid back on so I'm not breathing anything yucky poo. But again, we're not using turpentine anymore because it's not good for you. We don't want to touch things. We don't want to, our skin is absorbent, right? We don't want to breathe in any art mediums. We don't want to absorb any art mediums. If you go with that philosophy and keep that in mind, you will be safe. Ventilation, my studio is built as a studio, so I have built-in ventilation. But if you don't, make sure you just open a window when you're done, or while you're working. You can wear respirators. You don't need to, that's really crazy. Open a door, and then just don't sleep in here beside your paint all day long. Like, that would be weird. So get something to, mineral spirits to clean your brushes. Now, second part to that, I like to make sure it's really good. So I got that like Artist Masters soap bar. Just get like Artist soap. There's different brands. And once I'm done with my mineral spirits, I take my brushes inside. I've already mineral spirited off everything. And by the way, when you have the mineral spirits in your jar, you'll notice that the oil, it's not dirty. It's going to settle at the bottom. So when I actually open it, all my oil yuckiness it looks clear because it's all settled at the bottom. It's separated. So it's good to go. Okay, so next second part to the same thing is I go inside, I get my Artist soap, paintbrush soap, and then I add it to my brush, and then I rinse in water, and now I have a very clean, it looks pretty clean, right? And I use a lot of rich blues and stuff. Really nice and clean brush. Feels like I just bought it. It doesn't feel like it's oily or slick. It's nice and clean. So take care of your brushes. You don't need to buy lots of brushes. I would say buy very few brushes that are high quality and then take care of them. Okay, next, speaking of brushes, my next favorite supply, number 4, is get yourself 3 paintbrushes. If you're beginning, often we're like, I don't know what to buy, let's buy it all, right? I'm gonna go buy everything. Okay, well, these are a whole bunch of paintbrushes that I've bought in, and I've only one in here has any paint on it. I've never used the other ones. Don't be like me. Just buy a few. I've only really used these 2. I love this size for me and my way I like to paint. I typically think that artists tend, like everybody, we tend to use the same things over and over again, right? We get our favorites. I like this guy, and I have it also for my acrylic paint, a different version, right? This is my oil paint one. Well, the oil paint brushes are, well, this one's synthetic hog. For this one's a Winsor Newton. but they're a little bit more firm to push the oil paint versus I think those ones are acrylic paints or paintbrushes are a little softer. I think that's the idea. I like this one, but don't go based on what I like, because you might be doing more abstract paintings and you might want, or whatever. You might make a totally different style of painting, and you will want the paintbrush that makes sense for the marks that you make. So you're going to want to get something that makes sense for the style of painting that you go with. I do a lot more figurative work, not people. I don't paint people. I don't have a connection with people. I have a connection with nature and animals or things in my brain. I don't do anything realistic. I don't know. I'm just weird. Anyways, so I like this guy. I just like it. And that's what I use. I also like this one sometimes if I need to make a slightly bigger mark. My recommendation is to get 3 paintbrushes only. You will not use the other ones. And if you happen to one day need them, then go buy the one you need. Get 3. Get one that's big, get one that's a medium size, and get one that's small. And that is all you're going to need. So your number 4 is get 3 paintbrushes, but don't go and get the cheap ones from a hobby store. Okay? These are fluffy and they're sticking on my face. Yuck. Go cut that out. Go to an art store, or go on like a website, like Art Windsor Newton's website, or for instance, or whatever brand that you want to get. This is not an affiliate or anything. I'm just saying what I like. Get a quality brush. They're gonna be more expensive, right? When you go to a craft store or a hobby store, you'll get like a giant pack. You're like, wow, look how many they are. But I find that they're not very balanced. Like this is very balanced. It doesn't feel like this is heavy over here. I could paint like this, or I could paint like this, and it's evenly balanced. It feels like the same heaviness. This doesn't feel more light or heavy over here as when I hold it like this. This is the benefit. It's perfectly balanced for how, that didn't happen, how you want to hold it. Also, it's going to last a very long time. This isn't going to go rusty. This isn't going to fall apart. It's not going to have hair coming out because you spent the money on it. It's well made. Also, if you take care of it and you properly wash it, it's going to last forever, whereas the other ones will not. So get quality, less, but you're going to spend the same amount of money on just a few, but they're going to last a lot longer. They're also going to do the job way better. So that's my serious advice. Do not go waste your money on a bunch of brushes when you don't need them. And number 2, don't get the junk. Just get very, very few better quality brushes. Okay, finally, you're going to need an oil. It is oil paint. So typically, I've been just painting. I'll start off with just my paint only. I'll do my wash. I've done my washes, or I'll do my base color in acrylic. You cannot put acrylic on top of oil, but you can have acrylic under, and I want it to be dry so I can get painting. So I've done acrylic on my base coat, and then I go into oil. So then I have my oil, and I'll just paint with the pigment, and then when I want to make it thinner later on, then I add my oil paint, mix it with it so it is more translucent and not, right, this is very opaque. I want it to be later on when I'm adding layers to create depth. I want it to be a little bit more translucent, so now I'm going to add my oil. Now, when I started, bought a bunch of things. I didn't know what I was doing, so I'm like, oh jeez. Oh, I almost dropped it in some glass. Heart attack. Okay. You don't need to buy all of them. You only need a few. Okay, so there's 2 different ones here. They come typically in these like kind of containers. This is Winsor Newton Liquid Original, but that's a weird, you can't stick your brush in that. So I saved my jars. Okay, so like I love charcuterie. I love charcuterie nights. Like sometimes me and my husband will just do like a charcuterie dinner, just the 2 of us, because you just get a nibble. You just get to eat, watch TV and have your nibbles and taste. Oh, it's so good, it's so good. You know, sometimes you just want to have some cheese and crackers and like fruit and nuts. Okay, anyways, I saved like the spread jars. Look at that nice spread jar. What's it called? Big jar, jams, jellies, I don't know. Anyways, save jars. I saved all kinds of jars. Try it again. I made a weird noise. I save all kinds of jars. Jam jars, jelly jars, pickle jars, salsa jars are really good too. All jars, I take the labels off, I put them in the dishwasher, and then, because their lids screw on and off. They're perfect. I use them for snacks, right? For no plastic and no waste. I use them for storing seeds. When in my garden, I save the seeds from plants and I put them in my jars and then I reseed. Anyways, you can use them for anything. Snacks for a trip, so you don't have plastic leaching in your food. I save jars. This one's a perfect one. Look how shallow it is. And then I put it in there so I can dip into this and just put a little bit in here versus the entire bottle. So you need something to do it, and I just put paint pen, linseed oil. So there's two different kinds. Okay, there's not two different kinds. There's tons of different kinds of oils and bases. When you read them, they have different drying times, different textures. There's like sunflower oil, there's walnut seed oil, this is linseed oil. And there's liquid original, which is probably more synthetic. This is a bit more natural. I would say it's going to remain, it's just adding more oil to the pigment, right, which is the paint. You're adding more oil to the pigment to make it more translucent or watered down. You cannot add water to water this down, right? So acrylic, you're maybe more used to adding a medium or a water to thin it out and water it down to make it less bright, or to layer pigments on your canvas, right, to create depth and different effects. But we're not going to do that with oils. We're going to thin it or make it more translucent with an oil later on when we're layering. We'll just mix it together to make a more oily version or fatter version, more oil, fat. And then we'll put that over the lean coat. So we'll have that. This one, the linseed oil, some of the other more natural ones are going to dry longer, take longer to dry. A lot of people recommend, if you want to dry quicker, you can use something like Liquid Original. This one says speeds drying, improves gloss. Do I need it to be glossy if I'm going to put on a varnish? I don't know. I haven't used a liquid yet. I was very used to painting with acrylic, so I always had it drying fast. However, I moved to oil because I wanted it to dry slow so I can work on it a little longer. So I don't want to do this. Now I might switch to liquid. I've been using actually I haven't used any oil bases. I've been just putting my base coats on my current painting beside me. But now that I'm getting to the base coats done, I'm going to want to add more layers on top to create depth. So I'll probably start mixing with linseed oil to thin it out. So I'm going to keep it workable. Or I might switch if I want. Now I might want it to dry quicker because I want the layers to get going. So I might switch to liquid, have it a little quicker drying, so that way I can get to the final details in my final coat, the small details I don't want to blend away. So I can get there faster, and then keep the slower drying for my base or medium layers. So that's another way to think about it. Don't go buy all of them. Maybe you just buy either just liquid if you just want to work fast, or just linseed oil and you want to lean into the process of working more slow or being able to rework an area. So I would just say either a linseed oil or a liquid original. I think both of mine, actually I think this linseed oil might be Gamblin. I think this is Winsor Newton. So the only difference of them is they're going to either dry faster or slower. And then that's your personal preference. If you want to experiment with both, like you want some layers to be slower dry, and then later you want things to get going so you can get on those final layers, then you can switch maybe to liquid, and then that way you can have it done, so that way you can add your final tiny details on there, your little highlights, your little teeny tiny details here and there. little fur texture, and then that way you can be done. All right, I want to hear in the comment section below when you either started oil painting or when you expect to start oil painting. When are you going to start? I would like to hear about your journey in the comment section below. Let me know when you have either started oil painting or when you're going to start, when you plan on starting, in the comment section below. I will personally reply to you. And my advice to you is to just go paint. I spent a lot of time like watching YouTube videos, trying to research all the things like, oh, the rules of oil painting, fat overlaying, blah, blah, blah. My advice to you is to just pick up your paintbrush and start painting. And you'll be like, oh, why did I spend all this time worrying about all these rules that people are telling me in blogs and videos? Like, oh my gosh, just go paint and you'll be like, oh, so much anxiety will just ease and you'll be like, this is so enjoyable. I wish I started sooner. It is so fun. It's magical and I love it. So just my advice to you is just go paint. Just grab a few things. You don't need a lot and go paint, right? You need a palette. You need your primary colors. You need something to clean your oil paint brushes with. You need a few oil paint brushes and you need a medium. So either linseed oil, liquid, and original. Don't go diving in deep into the other things yet. Like that's for later on, right? Later on in your journey. This is for now. Keep it simple and then just go paint. That's my advice to you. All right, so your next video to watch is my first experience painting with oil paint. If you want to see what somebody who was really worried about buying all the things and like watching all the videos, if you want to see what that experience is like and then why I'm telling you now to just get into it, go watch the video. Link is above in the card, or you can click the link in the description below. Please like this video and subscribe to the channel for more art tutorials and art adventures, and I will see you in the next episode.